think this should be it. Can we kick it? Yes, we can. Very cool. All right, so I'm going to test some audio real quick here, and then cool. Everything looks copacetic. Say some sounds real quick.
Hello. Can you hear me good? Hello.
Yep. All right. Cool. So today's stream is going to be very focused because we have an interesting prospect. For those of y'all who've been following this channel for a while, you know that this channel has been covering some corruption in the Libertarian Party and how it's been moving counter to the actual libertarian movement for quite some time. Now, full disclosure for any LNC members who might see this, or LP in general, I am an anarchist. I'm, sort of the asshole chucking rocks from the sidelines. But I'm happy to have on people who want to make their case for a less corrupt administration. So today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Brittany Kosin. And this conversation will be centered around the corruption in specific, and in general, it will be centered around the investigation being opened into the Angela McArdle sort of regime, as Brittany put it before the call. It's a good word for it. And also into the general ways that can be combated. Now, personally, there's plenty of ways to skin this proverbial animal, but there's also very specifically a third-party investigation potential. And in this particular case, I would say that that's a necessary thing, because it's going to be the kind of thing that leads toward, true transparency with what happened. And, this particular subject means something to me as a previous sort of campaigner, activist for libertarian causes, etc. I'm very much on board with getting some sort of accountability in this regard. So I figured we would have a quick stream about this and see if we could get to the heart of this and give Brittany the chance to make her case for this particular investigation. So without further ado, I'm going to share this, and while I do, why don't you introduce yourself, let us know what got you involved in the Libertarian Party, and what the Mises Freedom Caucus is.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be on. My name's Brittany Kosin, as you...
You are beeping. I don't know what that was. It went off for a second.
I don't know.
Yeah, it is doing it again. I have never heard that before in my life. Try again.
Okay, how are you now?
Go for it.
I think it's trying to pick up the mic from my headphones too. Okay, so my name's Brittany. I got involved in the Libertarian Party in 2022, pretty much when I was trying to run for state rep in my area, and basically I was told by the Republicans, I was a former Republican, was told by them that I was not involved enough in their thing. I couldn't just come out of nowhere because I decided I wanted to see change, and I wasn't part of their little clique and group. So they basically said, pound sand, you're not going to get our nomination. And I said, well, that's not cool. And I went and kind of did some research on all the different third parties, because I was not very aligned with the Democrats, and obviously was no longer aligned with the Republicans. And then so I did my research, and I looked at all the different third parties that were pretty popular in my area. And when I started looking down at it, I really aligned a lot with the beliefs of the Libertarian Party. And being a registered nurse, A big thing of mine was the whole concept of medical freedom and everything that was basically you do you, boo boo. Like you and your doctor make the decisions, and the government shouldn't be involved. And that really resonated with me. And as I got more involved in the party and more involved in everything and learning different things about the libertarian movement and just all of their platform stuff, I decided with my husband and a former friend of mine to start the Libertarian Party Medical Freedom Caucus. So we founded this on to defend bodily autonomy, informed consent, and free market healthcare solutions. Those are kind of our pillars for it, and it's just against government overreach. We think that the individuals, not bureaucrats, should make their own medical decisions, free from coercion, mandates, corporate-driven regulation, a regulatory capture, like just making it that you and your doctor make the decisions. And basically, like I said, both parties have failed to uphold medical freedom. So it was like if between lockdowns, mandates, government-backed censorship of medical dissent, we just like I really saw a need to have a caucus for this. So like we really exist to fight for decentralized healthcare and end to things with Medicare. Just there's so many things that it ends up like addressing, and we're just here to ensure that never again will politicians have the power to dictate what goes on with our bodies. And that's pretty much where the Medical Freedom Caucus comes from. And we're just really big on freedom and free market stuff and transparency, and it mostly in healthcare, but transparency in general.
And what kind of actions have you done in order to sort of promote that sort of mentality, that sort of action?
Big thing, I am big on just promoting anywhere, or if I see anything out there that goes against what we stand for as a caucus, I make a statement on it. I put out a comment, I put out a statement, I put out solutions, suggestions, different things like that on my social media. And really, I try and get involved as best as I can in different things locally, of just in general conversation. Hey, do you know, like libertarianism was up, we believe in this. And it's a great conversation starter with a lot of people. And it's something a lot of people resonate with, and it's something they can relate to bring them to libertarianism in general.
Yeah, so this is a caucus. How many members do you have, and like, what's the kind of momentum?
Last I knew, this is how much it's great. Last I knew, we had probably 15 to 25 people that were delegates at national convention, and it's just grown from there. We have active and inactive. We have ones that are just it's all over the place of how much involvement each person has. So it's always growing, always changing. I, off the top of my head, do not have an exact number for you, but it's gotten a lot of traction over the last year.
Very cool. So, and I only ask all those sort of preliminary questions because there are going to be people, who see this, click it, maybe something, and then be like, medical what, who? Like, there are going to be people who want to, like, see them creds. So I figured I'd start with that, and also demonstrate that you've got some skin in this game, that you've been trying to actually do something for a bit now. It's not just like some like petty, I'm not involved, I don't do anything, and I'm like, I got sour grapes because of how relevant these people are. Like the LNC is going to pretend that that's the case. So I figured I would start with that. The second thing that I thought I would say, I want to know in general, like the general sort of vibes you got initially from Angela Was there ever a point at which you admired what she was doing, appreciated it, felt like you were a part of something good?
So when I first came into the party, I came in 2022, right about when she got elected, and she actually was a mentor to me in the Libertarian Party. I had her personal cell phone number, like we were close. And I don't I think I I would say I even even to the point that up to DC National, it was we were still relatively close. It definitely things were changing, but she was someone that I had looked to for guidance in getting started in the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, so like there was a time at which you actually thought that she was, doing real libertarianism, that she was standing behind something that you could stand with.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because like there are a lot of people who hear situations like this and they believe that like the person who doesn't like them didn't like them this whole time and now's their chance. And like there to be fair, in a variety of spaces and in a variety of movements, there are like opportunists who wait for that like moment to strike, and then they're like, well, you know what? I never liked that person. But like, so, and full disclosure to folks, I thought maybe, like in the beginning of it, that the Mises Caucus might actually do some cool stuff. But then I became involved with them, and anybody who's been following this channel for any length of time knows that didn't end well. It didn't go well for me because I had the audacity to criticize, foreign pro-war president like Javier Milei and a variety of other right-wing garbage that was coming out of those circles, and they eventually removed me from all Mises Caucus spaces that they could manage, and blocked me on a variety of Mises Caucus accounts, including the main one, and basically prevented me from commenting on their stuff while they told a litany of statist bullshit lies and a variety of other things, in order to gradually push for this, like, alliance with MAGA, this modern day paleo strategy. So I've got some experience as well with watching this go downhill. And like similarly, for a significant period of time, I was trying to get some accountability for Angie, and watching as more and more corrupt things happened, all in the name of trying to stymie a candidate who they allegedly didn't expect to win, that being Chase Oliver. So for me, for my money, I want to watch it burn. And I'm hoping that this investigation can find the truth, because the truth is that this is a highly corrupt administration. Now, let's start with that. Let's start with, what would you say if you had to give people the number one concern that should be unearthed in this investigation?
So my big thing, like, why, just in general, like, why we're even as a caucus wanting to fund this. It's a lot. It's about the principle of things. It's not political. It's, as libertarians, we demand transparency from the government. So why shouldn't we be expecting the same thing from our national party? Like, you can't have rules for thee and not for me. Like, if you want to hold someone, everyone should be held to the same standards. So it's just, there's so many of these like serious accusations being brought forward regarding financial mismanagement in the LP, and like, unlike government agencies that just tend to like sweep this under the rug, as we're seeing it's coming out with Doge, some of the stuff of that's being been swept under the rug for so many years. We want accountability. And I get the LNC's investigating it, but cool, awesome. You're investigating yourselves, but you can't have that investigation be taken with any credibility when you're the ones doing it.
Right.
We don't we wouldn't trust our own government to investigate themselves, really. Like, it's taken with a grain of salt. Like, well, yeah, they found that, but what else did they find that they didn't tell us? So, like, why should we allow them to just do that? Like, I think it's just something we need to have this be outside eyes, people that don't have any skin in the game, doing this investigation and being straightforward, black and white. Here's what we found. Do with it as you please.
Right. Well, and so, you know, and Doge is an interesting comparison too, because Doge is them investigating themselves and finding themselves like, oh yeah, I'm so sure that Elon Musk, the guy behind Hyperloop, doesn't like have anything to do with like government waste. Sure. We'll be talking about that at some point too.
Yeah.
Um,
But at least it's something, right? Like, but I see it. You still can't trust them to fully disclose anything. As I said, Doge is the equivalent of the LNC doing their own investigation.
yeah. And so like the third party thing is gonna be necessary, and like so the primary thing, when you put out the promotional materials for this investigation, you put out like a graphic basically, and that's when we agreed to the stream. This graphic, I think, does a relatively good job of going into the finer details, like the high notes of why this investigation should happen. But for those who haven't seen it, what would you say, like that graphic and others, are the primary things that you want to see out of this investigation? Like, what would you say would be the primary things that should be investigated to begin with?
I really think the biggest things we want to get out of this is really just, like I said, that accountability, that what's been said, and kind of coming to end with those, either making the rumors true or solidifying that the rumors are rumors.
Right.
Like, and just and putting that final, like, setting it in stone that this is what it is, and either clearing names or going, yeah, like, we probably weren't the smartest people. Like, my husband does all my graphics, so, and he has I've seen about 15 different graphic variations, so I forget which ones he actually puts out for me.
Yeah, so
because I see like so many iterations of all these graphics.
So this one says, and I'll read it for the audience. I don't have like the graphic available. I should have had it like where I could just sort of pop up the graphic like a newscaster. That would have been professional and shit. But like this graphic says, no backroom deals, no cover-ups, just the truth. Expose the McArdle grift. The Libertarian Party Medical Freedom Caucus is standing up for integrity within our party. We are raising funds to hire an independent investigative firm to uncover the truth behind serious allegations of fraud and embezzlement involving the disgraced former LNC chair, Angela McArdle. The alleged transactions at the bottom include self-dealing, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, and more. And it includes like a QR code to the I believe website for the LP Med Freedom Caucus Investigate McArdle Fund.
Yes.
So that in general, I think sums it up. But let's get into the finer details. What, according to the Med Freedom Caucus, are the possible, like self-dealing allegations, and how can those manifest in a potential investigation?
Yeah, so a big thing, like medical freedom, it's built on trust and integrity. And those are two things that are pretty much being looked into here with all of this in our state. So if we want to demand honesty from government agencies, like all of our alphabet agencies, like CDC, FDA, all of them, we need to ensure our own house is in order first.
Right.
Like, we can't, like, and this is a big thing. It's like not about any personal feelings. Like I said, I used to be great with Angela, but it's establishing best practices and setting precedents and setting rules that for future things that it's not okay. You can't do this. And it doesn't matter if you're which faction you're in or whatever new faction comes out, like after Mises or whatever, everyone should operate with transparency and integrity. And that's the big thing of why we're really going for this now, because it's a chance to kind of take us off a course we shouldn't be going down.
Right. And so the self-dealing thing, the situation as I understand it, is like essentially multifold, like sort of like the same kind of thing that you would see in other political parties and other political circles. They would set up shell corporations, essentially LLCs, in order to be like sort of public facing, elements that didn't seem like conflicts of interest when money was going to them. And it turned out that some of those institutions were like directly responsible for participation in potentially illegal, victory funds, potentially illegal, like self-dealing sort of embezzlement mechanics, like Freedom Calls LLC, that sort of thing. Do you mind elaborating on either of those?
So the big thing, it's definitely, we, like I said, right now they're still labeled as rumors and stuff like that, because nothing's been straight up confirmed or anything. But there's a lot of evidence going against and kind of making them sound a little bit more like truths. Like you said, the one, there's LLCs out there that are related to Angela's significant other, that she did not disclose were his, that were, he was getting thousands of dollars a month. And it turns out there's a couple other organizations that LLCs that have been established that were basically doing the same thing. And for what they were claiming that they were providing a service for, I don't see any like results from those services that were being supposedly supplied. So where was the service for the fee, and why was a conflict of interest not disclosed? It just really, when you start going down rabbit holes and start looking into stuff more, it just gets more and more suspicious.
Yeah. Well, so in terms of that suspicion, what would your initial approach be to this investigation? Or would you just be seeking somebody who could do this? What led you to the sort of number you would need for this investigation? Or do you have like a set figure yet that you need?
So I have spoken with two highly reputable firms, BDO and Aperio. They're both based in the DC metro area. Neither has any direct ties to the parties involved, so they would be unbiased on everything. Their work is court admissible, and they will testify to their findings under oath. That level of accountability is non-negotiable, which is something we were looking for. We still haven't set an exact like cost yet, but we've gotten some quotes from them, and the cost is approximately about $20,000 to go back to the Reno convention in 2022. But for full transparency, as we like have kind of seen with Mises Caucus members have asked why no one's investigated Sorwalk, if we could go back to 2014 and include him, so we don't show like favoritism in one side or another, and being again fully transparent and unbiased. It would cost an additional $30,000.
Right.
If some of those financial records even exist. If you start getting past a point that it's now 10, 11 years ago, some of these records don't need to be saved anymore. So you start getting into that.
And then it's like, well, if y'all want to help raise an additional chunk of money to investigate someone else, let's do that too. Fuck yeah. Let's fucking shine a light everywhere and watch the roaches scatter. Awesome.
Yeah. Pull back the curtain and see who the real Wizard of Oz is.
Yeah. So, but like a lot of these people aren't good. That's a bluff. They don't want to actually take the time to do the secondary investigation into much longer ago, much less fresh, much less relevant things, which is an ironic thing coming from the relevancy hose.
Yeah, it's like I said, and like I said, I'm not just pulling these numbers out of anywhere. I've gotten quotes and stuff like that. So, and we have it that if all the donations, if we get more than what the value is, we're going back to the people that donated, because this is earmarked. It's a specific folder in our fundraising program, that if we come back and there's $100 left, we're going to reach out to everybody that donated and said, hey, there's 50 cents left, or a penny, or like, what would you like that back? Or would you like to, what would you like to do with that? Like, we're not profitizing off of any of this.
Right. Yeah. And the other half, like, because when it comes to this, the primary thing that I think people need to understand is that conflict of interest, is that breach of fiduciary duty, because, like, we got the pink parliamentarian in chat. Hello to Karen and Harlos. I went to bat for her a bit back by putting out this video, because people were like, "Oh, you're supposed to be libertarians, and aren't you an anarchist? And aren't you an agorist? Why do you care about any of this stuff? You know, why do you care if it's legal or not?" And it's like, because if it's not legal, then it jettisons this party's future success. And if this party is truly a party committed to principle and liberty, they should give a fuck about that. Like, it should matter to them that they might be jettisoning their future prospects. I compared it to, like, you know, if the Coca-Cola CEO did ads for Pepsi and helped fundraise for Pepsi, you know, that would probably be considered a bad thing, and that would probably get that CEO fired. The board would probably convene a meeting and be like, "Yo, why are you advertising for our competition?" And this is the same kind of thing. It's just a board for another type of business. The fact that it's a nonprofit and the fact that it's connected to a political office doesn't change, you know, fiduciary obligations. It doesn't change whether or not somebody is demonstrating a conflict of interest that they aren't actually willing to, you know, address, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Karen is reserving judgment until this is done. Wants that to make that absolutely clear. But, like, if this is a breach of fiduciary duty, if this is an actual, like, conflict of interest, especially one that was routinely not reported, that's the problem. That's going to be a significant problem, because that means that this actual political organization, which has to follow rules in order to maintain, you know, fucking existence, might not be able to fucking do that. And so, like, if these people actually care about this party, if these people actually care about the alleged liberty that this party is supposed to be pushing, that would be a thing that matters to them. So why don't we talk briefly about the conflict of interest and fiduciary duty as it applies to the potential allegations with regard to McArdle and what she potentially did. Allegedly, TMCR.
Yeah, allegedly, like I said, she had it that she approved basically to enter into a contract with her significant others LLC to get about $4,000 a month. Didn't disclose that it was his. Let's see, what else does she do? I'm gonna say there's probably another. I want to say there's another LLC that was a similar idea, that it links back to that. Basically, she was getting paid by the LNC through an LLC.
Well,
And
yeah, Rescue the West was one of them.
yeah, Rescue the West. Yeah, as I said, it's like the more you dig, the more show up. And I've been like trying. I've been pushing for this, and I'm going and saying, and like, but my big thing is like, it doesn't matter how much we come out with.
Yeah.
Because right now it doesn't matter right now, because if it's gonna come out, and I don't want to. I don't like dragging names through the mud unnecessarily. And it's just, and that's just a moral thing. Like, I don't want it to come back, because I wouldn't want it done to me.
Yeah.
And I go, and it's like, if there's something that's there's some pretty damning evidence, but at the same time, it's still under investigation. I would still love to see that third party investigation be done. And until that's done, you can't say anything specifically. But yeah, a big thing is, it's like, I think also there's like, we've racked up $100,000 in credit card debt as a party. I'm like, I know I can rack up some credit card debt, but like, I don't know how in a couple years we can rack up this much money when we've done nothing but cut things. I don't think we have the office in DC. We got rid of a couple staffers for that. Like, we've been cutting, yet we're still negative, or like on the negative trajectory. Like,
Yeah.
There's so many more things that like need looking into, that I bet you would come out with so much more information.
Exactly. Like Jake Porter brought up Swing Vote Strategist as an example. That was another one of those LLCs that was Angie attached. And you would find out that some of these were just sending money to her literal fucking house.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And we've also got Karen saying there are non-LNC members on the internal committee, just in case that was not clear. Exactly, yeah. And also, so the other half of this, first off, anybody, if you want to support your local schizo journalist, feel free to use the links in the description, because I don't ever have credit card debt. I've never actually owned one. So, I live within my means, and so can the LNC. Like, there's ways that these people could have actually, solved their problems. There are ways that these people could have actually been libertarians and gotten people on board. Instead, and this was a key point in my mind, Rechtenwald, first off, there's going to be a video soonish about that sort of, situation, because he has, some comments about, Rechtenwald has some comments about the way he was treated. The Mises Caucus basically used him as a mouthpiece, and then when he was no longer useful, he says that he feels thrown out by the Mises Caucus. And the reason they used him as a mouthpiece is because they wanted Trump this whole time, and so if they couldn't get Trump, why not the deplorable professor who's always identified with Trump positions and mentalities? Why not get the guy who also doesn't like immigration, is against the wokes, is, trying to, vaccines and, all this stuff, which some of it is legitimate. I'm not saying Rechtenwald is entirely wrong, but what I am saying is that, he's, basically a Libertarian Party version of Trump. But he's not Trump, and he rode on a lot of Trump's branding and a lot of Trump's mentalities, and while he rode on Trump's branding and mentalities, eventually they realized, hey, if we could just have Trump, that'd be awesome. And so when Chase, became, the nominee, Angela McArdle, I remember her in, a recording or something, on a stream somewhere, I'll find it eventually. She said that she was like, okay, I can work with this, because it meant that she didn't have to care at all about supporting the candidate, because she knew that there were a variety of people in her camp that wouldn't. So she was just like, fuck yeah, let's go Trump. And we'll use Chase to chase Biden out. And shit like that. And she put on the clown nose, and she was a super disrespectful, representative of the party. And that became the norm for a while there. She was just disrespecting her own nominee because she never respected him to begin with. And neither did so many of the other people on the stage. So it became really easy to throw out Rechtenwald and to throw out Chase and to make Trump the presumptive Libertarian Party nominee, according to people who have no principles and no guidestones. So, that's my brief screed here, just to bring people up to speed who might not already be. And I have to say, the idea of an investigation happening here would be awesome, because there's guaranteeably some stuff associated with this that Jake Porter has not found yet. Because Jake Porter's in the chat, he's done awesome work. So has Liberty Sentries. You know, I've contributed some stuff to the field myself. But in general, generally speaking, there's like some very complicated stuff here that it would be helpful to have on an actual legal record. So it'd be interesting to see if that was possible. Now, what is your primary concern? Because recently, and you're free to talk about this if you want, you had this thing with the with a JC hearing, if I understand correctly.
JC hearing was not in regards to this.
Right, but like in terms of like general corruption, in terms of like general things, what's been going on lately in your camp?
Our biggest thing is just clearing the air, and either wrongdoing's proven or it's not. And that's our big thing in our camp, is just really just making sure that we are holding the LNC to the standards that we have established as libertarians we want from leadership in general. It doesn't matter if you're LNC leadership or if you're federal government leadership, that we have these standards, and we have all agreed upon them for the most part as libertarians, that these are some things that we as a group agree on. So why is it that we're having these double standards?
Right.
And it's again, it goes back to those rules for me, rules for thee and not for me. Like, what makes you any different than anybody else in the Libertarian Party? What makes you different than Joe down in some small podunk town in a little state any different than Angela, who was up as the LNC chair? Like, there's no difference. It's just one decided to run for a position in the party and be the face of the party, and another just wants to support locally. Like, we still have the same goals.
Right. Yeah, and like, because the thing is, a lot of this really comes down to, like, what these people claimed to want from a party. If it was always to get somebody like Trump in, then they've committed fraud. Because they were openly saying that they wanted somebody like Rechtenwald to wreck the regime, you know, and then, like, when Rechtenwald didn't succeed in getting the nomination, they were like, suddenly wreck the regime, out. They did not care. And so if that was just an opportunistic thing, that's one thing. It's still bad. It's still corrupt. But if it was this whole time they were just sort of like willing to use the Libertarian Party as a vehicle to sort of get bullshit candidates that they wouldn't actually support in the end, and then eventually shutter those people and throw them to the wolves, if that's the case, like, the corruption runs a whole lot deeper. Now, what would, like, first off, be well, Karen, I shall look forward to your appraisal later. She's off to another meeting. And, like, Jake also says that Rechtenwald was paid by a Kennedy PAC after he lost the nomination. So I think that, if I recall correctly, that one was sort of making him whole because he went into debt with his campaign. But that just means that, again, the Libertarian Party didn't do a whole, like, great job working with him to make sure his campaign got properly funded. They didn't promote him enough to get donations, which is insane. They would rather, promote, like, some sort of convention instructions to, ban transgender people as part of a cultural Marxist woke blah, 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 and also hate on sex work, than they would make a campaign to make him actually profitable or, at least solvent as a candidate. That's insane. But, like, also, thanks for the hair compliment, Karen. One hair to another. But, like, generally speaking, I think what we're dealing with here is, at the very best, opportunistic grifters, and at the worst, inherent corruption that runs to this like the heart of the issue. So, do you have anything in general to say about that potential, or like anything that might lead you to believe that the corruption runs deeper than people already assume it does?
I can definitely probably solidify their belief in some of it, but my big thing is again, one of them is Michael Heiss. It seems like he has these goals that he wants to achieve, and he finds puppets or individuals willing to basically be sacrificial lambs so that he can get his agenda across, and he doesn't care. I had it where at Pennsylvania's convention, I was asked to be the Senate candidate against and run against for a nomination against Eric Gerhardt. And I'm like, I looked at it and I'm like, you do know Eric lives about, well, then Michael Heiss doesn't live far from me either. But I'm like, you do know, like, he lives like down the street from my mother-in-law. Like, I'm very good friends with him. I'm very pro Eric. Like, why would you ask me this? Like, he still wanted to run. Like, it's not like he doesn't want to run, then sure, yeah, like whatever. But like, why would you ask me that? Like, now you're putting friend against friend in a nomination for a position that one of them doesn't really want, and the other one already did it once and wants to go again. And then it's like, you go and you look at the Rechtenwald stuff with him. It seems like he picked Rechtenwald again, almost kind of I would say last minute, in my opinion. Like, in the scheme of things, I would say last minute. And tried to push a professor to be a candidate, and you have it that he's not really cut out for that type of position or that type of race, and he picked a Mises over a Mises. You had Mike Tremont, who was a Mises member. Like, why would you have two Mises members running against each other? Like, that makes no sense. One of them is obviously a sacrificial lamb to split the votes to make it, and it really, I deep down feel that, like, Rechtenwald was picked to be a sacrificial lamb with the hopes that he would win and pull enough of the Mises votes, because Mises had a dominance, and pull that and then have him drop out, and now you got Trump.
Yeah. Well,
but then Chase won, and now he's not going to drop out. So now they're like, oh, pivot, plan B, like
the one plan B that these people support. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and like, it's not just him. Like, Josh Smith also felt snubbed by the LP, and he was routinely like treated like absolute dog shit by Adrian Malagon and a bunch of other people.
Well, everyone's treated like shit by Adrian.
True. But like, fucking him, Spike Cohen was essentially like jerked around about it, and like there was this whole big thing with Larry Sharpe at a convention regarding that, like, picking him when he didn't actually agree to or know about that, allegedly. Like, there's a whole lot of problems here, like, that these people, and then this is all coming hot off the heels of, like, Dave Smith dropping out. And Dave Smith was basically who every Mises Caucus person wanted to be in, like, the nominee seat, and he might have actually had some level of star power. Instead, what ended up happening was Dave Smith going to the LNC convention and telling everybody to behave for Trump. How fucking cucked is that?
Yeah.
So, go?
No, it's just, like I said, the more if you sit back and you look at things objectively and just look at it as presented, you just sit there and shake your head.
Yeah. And then like, after Trump gets elected, so much of this corruption becomes so manifest, because like, you've got people like like Angela making excuses for why it appeared he wasn't going to free Ross, like for why it had been like over a day since his inauguration, and he hadn't have done it day one. Now, sure, it's a good thing Ross is out, right? Sure, fine, fucking fine, but it's not a trump card. It's just a trump card. It's just something that you can play to say that Trump is good. And when it came down to it, so many of these stooges were just around saying like, "Oh yeah, you know what? People were rude to him at the convention, and what he said was that he would put a libertarian in his cabinet and free Ross day one and all this other stuff if you made him your nominee, and you didn't, so it's your fault. He's a corrupt piece of shit. It's fuck you."
I even go and say, and Angela still goes and tries to pat herself on the back of saying, well, see, I got Ross freed. I got Ross freed. It's like, I don't see her being the sole leading reason why Ross was freed. I credit that to his mother. And then second and third, I put as Massey and Elon. I hate putting Elon in there, but he somehow has Trump's ear. I don't know how. I don't know why.
Money.
But he does. But Trump has his own money too. But money speaks to money.
Yeah, like, because the thing is that all these people are part of this massive corrupt network. Like, we'll be talking more about that as well on this channel. You're welcome to those discussions should you choose. But, like, generally speaking, Elon helped bankroll a significant amount of his ads, helped bankroll a significant amount of his sort of opposition research, helped him move into a position where he was no longer the corrupt candidate, but the candidate of freedom because of like a bunch of social network media manipulation tactics and a bunch of shit like that. Elon Musk had money to get into the positions he has. He had money to get into SpaceX, PayPal, Tesla, Neuralink. None of these institutions were like completely started by him. Most of them he bought his way into. Then he bought his way into Twitter and renamed it X. And he bought his way into so many other things. He buys his way into things. And then he had influence because of Twitter. And he used that influence and his money alongside that influence to influence peddle for the electoral purposes. So that's why I say money. It really does boil down to Elon Musk could buy his way into the Trump's ear. Effectively, he's an earwig.
Yeah, and as I said, I wouldn't put Angela at the top of the list of people involved in that. She's down lower on the list. I say Ross's mother and Massey are the top two.
Yeah, and it was also hilarious that she said, we got Assange freed. When that article came out from I think Liz Wolfe, if I remember correctly, I might be misremembering that, from Reason magazine, and she was responding to criticism from that article in the replies to it on Twitter, and she was just like, we got Assange freed. No, you didn't. Biden did that, and he didn't even fully do it at that point. Like, now maybe you even have slightly better credit to that because Trump has issued a full pardon and not just a commutation of sentence. So that is good too, because hashtag free Assange, but hashtags don't free the general people. And he's building a concentration camp for 30,000 of the motherfuckers in Guantanamo.
Yep. And history repeats itself. It's just some people are blind to the past.
Yeah, and see, that'd be that if this actually resulted in a real libertarian society, that might even be one thing. If you could actually point to whether to an actual concrete libertarian future that was being built by this, that'd be one thing. But you know what we've got? We've got basically cope. So here's an example: the Doge thing. The Doge thing, I had an exchange with somebody just today where he said that, Doge had cut 250,000 jobs, which was 10% of the federal workforce. And I asked for a source. I'm not going to say who this person was. I respect this person for a variety of reasons, and this person has been a long-time supporter, so I'm not trying to put them on blast. But like the number that was just absurd. There haven't been 250,000 government job cuts ever. And while some of those jobs are on the chopping block, it wouldn't even be 10% if that was the case, because there's 3 million people in the federal workforce. But also, like, the other half of it is like, again, it's not even that much to begin with. It was something closer to 0.3% of the federal workforce and closer to 10,000 employees. And even if that's the case, Trump is taking over Gaza, and he says he's going to use Gaza as a way to create unlimited jobs. So we're not even getting a libertarian future. We're not even getting a libertarian presidency. We're not even getting those jobs cut. We're just getting them moved. It's like that, Megamind thing, I wouldn't say rescued. I would more like under new management. It's like fucking absurd to think that these people are on our side. And that's what these people are doing. They're doing victory laps and saying, "Oh, this is the most relevant the Libertarian Party has ever been. You must just not like relevance and like being a loser." No. I understand what they're actually doing, because fascists always pull this garbage. They always fire the inconvenience and replace them with people that are better for their agenda, which is exactly what's happening. He's not like firing these people and replacing them with nothing. He's firing them and replacing them with a junta.
Yeah, so I had a post, I just posted, I think it's either yesterday or today, recently, and it goes and it says, politicians love to talk about fiscal responsibility, but history tells a different story. The Democrats spent years claiming they would cut waste, balance budgets, and rein in spending. But when they were in power, they raised the debt ceiling, expanded government, and ran up the bill for future generations. Obama did it, Biden did it, and now the GOP is playing the exact same game. They'll tell you Doge has cut $100 billion, but let's be honest, what does that really mean when they push through $4 trillion in new debt? A few symbolic cuts don't change the reality. The government is still spending money we don't have. Trump pressured Congress for a bigger budget before he even took office, and now his next proposal will dig the hole even deeper. Neither party is willing to stop the runaway spending because big government is a bipartisan addiction. I didn't praise Biden when he bragged about savings while spending in any supposed cuts, and I won't do it for Trump either. It's simple. If you waste taxpayer dollars, you're a part of the problem. I don't care if you got an R or a D next to your name. Reckless spending is reckless spending. A government that lives beyond its means cannot be trusted to protect your liberty. Either cut the spending or get out of the way.
Exactly. So I think that might, for today anyway, because there's a whole fuck ton more discussion to be had on this matter. And we'll be having a discussion tomorrow in a Twitter space about left libertarianism. We'll be having discussions on, I believe, Thursday, about some more of this stuff associated with this stuff. But like the general thing, and you're welcome on either of those should you choose. But the general thing is, what would you tell somebody? Give them your elevator pitch, as sort of a closing statement. What would you tell somebody in order to convince them to support this, spread the message, get the ball rolling for this investigation? What would you tell them is like the most important things? How would you convince them?
All right, so we need donors to help us raise the funds to make it happen. Transparency doesn't come cheap, but it's worth every penny to restore trust in our party. And this is about doing what's right, not what's easy. The Libertarian Party should be setting the standard for transparency, not making excuses. If there's nothing to hide, then there's nothing to be afraid of.
Very cool. So, and I'll make as sort of my general closing statement. There's much more to be said about this. There's much more that needs to be said. But one of the primary things is sunlight is disinfectant. And the closer we can get to more of this like transparency coming to the front, the better. Because there's so much to be said for an actual libertarian movement. And I don't oppose that at all. If somebody thinks that they can work with partyarchy in order to secure a more libertarian future, they can make that attempt. And I will, have people on who have tactics that I wouldn't personally do, but tactics that they believe to be an actual furtherance of liberty. And I certainly don't object to legalization of various things and getting various sorts of restrictions lessened and people out of jail. And I'm not against freeing Ross. You know, I've never once said, you know what, he should go back. So I'm not remotely trying to shit on valid libertarian efforts, but what I am saying is that if the alleged party of principle cannot have enough principle in order to, have like a transparent and non-corrupt administration at its helm, then it didn't have any principle to begin with. It had to resort to all of these corrupt tactics in order to get what it wanted. And that will never, ever get rid of the sorts of regimes that, have composed the duopoly, have created the swamp, have filled it with creatures. So as long as that sort of corruption is what we're dealing with, there will be no progress made in political libertarian circles. And if that corruption spills over to anarchist circles where they're justifying that shit and saying that it's okay, then it doubles the problems. So the general thing that I would say is that the reason somebody should support this investigation is very, very simple. If these people didn't do anything wrong, then the investigation probably won't find that they did, and we can find out that there's been a whole lot of hysteria for nothing. But if it does find corruption, which it almost certainly will, there's going to be a whole lot of reasons to believe that these people were never in the business of freeing you, and always in the business of doing what so many of these anti-woke grifters do, trying to get gainful employment with the regime rather than wrecking anything at all, trying to, get in bed with the state rather than smashing it. And that's been true in so many of these cases, where these people will, like, cuck and cater for their alleged relevance, and it won't matter who, like, gets caught in the crossfire. It won't matter who gets crushed by the machine. As long as they're at the steering wheel, they'll enable the fuck out of that. And that's exactly the kind of problem that created the state to begin with. People saying, oh, if only I were in charge, everything would be great. Well, things suck ass, and it's because of those people who got in charge. And as long as we keep on enabling that kind of culture, that kind of mentality, we will never smash the fucking state. Thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
And where can people find your thing? Where can people find you? Is there any information you'd like to give them so that they can get inspired to move with you?
Of course, let me get those real quick. Let's see. The big thing is we have our everything is on our website at lpmedfreedomcaucus.com. That's our main site for all of it. There's a separate page, I believe, for the investigation, fundraising, and everything like that. We're also on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, Facebook, you name it. We have probably a social handle for it, for the Medical Freedom Caucus. I myself have my Brittany for PA, at Brittany for PA, at LP Med Freedom, and at Brittany, the number 4 LNC. So those are my Twitters. I am always answering messages because I don't sleep. So you can always get a hold of me somehow.
In the words of Bring Me the Horizon, we will never sleep because sleep is for the weak. No, we will never rest until we're all fucking dead. lpmedfreedomcaucus.com. Thank you for coming, Brittany. It has been a pleasure to speak with you, and I hope to do it more and get into sort of the nitty-gritty on some of these corruption issues on a broader scale and how they've been affecting things since the MAGA regime has taken over and proven just how anti-libertarian it is. For all of you who are here, feel free to like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff, and support independent journalism. Oh, that was an accident. I didn't mean to start playing music. There we go. Whatever. Consider that a little outro music, I guess. Be well, all. Smash the fucking state.